My global picture is for this year, 2023, we're going to continue to face a number of headwinds, which are clearly, you've outlined, things like the Ukrainian war. I don't think inflation is going anywhere. And of course, we have concerns, the sort of perennial concerns about slowing economic growth around the world. I would say structurally or long term, we have a bunch of headwinds that we've been dealing with before the pandemic hit in earnest in 2020, things like technology and the jobless underclass, areas around massive growth in the world's population. We're now over 8 billion people, issues around inequality, issues around supply, as well as climate energy transition issues, debt. And so there are ongoing challenges that we were already facing, but I think those things will be accelerated in 2023.
So you believe you're in the camp of global recession 2023. You think we're going to be in that world?
Yes. And look, frankly, Ian, I think it's a global recession is an acceleration of already structural problems around growth that really started before the pandemic. So in that sense, the pandemic and the war, inflation are really an acceleration of the structural slowdown in growth that I think many economists have been talking about before the pandemic hit in earnest.
And so when you look at who is making structural and strategic investments to build out their own economic sectors, their own human capital, where do you think that's being done most effectively among the major economies, the G20 economies in the world right now?
Really, continues to be, at least on paper, very much something that's led by China. They have a very clear policy in terms of their innovation. They recognize technology is going to dominate a lot of not just networks and consumerism, but also public policy. The disruption in public policy of education and healthcare is really going to be largely driven by technology, and they're leaning into that very explicitly. I mean, they're not shy about it. China also is very much a leader in infrastructure. Again, not news. For several years now, they've talked about systemic approach to rolling out infrastructure. But more recently, they've been very aggressively talking about their energy policy. I mean, these are key areas where I would argue that the West, again, generally, but specifically the United States, has not really had a clear articulation of what the plan is. And perhaps more than that, dare I say, is that I feel we seem to be back-footed. In some respects, the financial crisis was a surprise to us. In some respects, the COVID pandemic was a surprise to us. And not only did we not anticipate these things, but we didn't seem to have a plan that would at least be implemented off the shelf. And so it's those type of things that are quite worrying. Now, I'm not here to discount the West or the United States. I think that the very nature of how democracy and market capitalism works means that there's an opportunity for a reset and to drive these things. But I'm afraid at this moment, it seems there's a much clearer articulation of these necessary government industrial policies, as you call them, coming out of China and perhaps some other rogue states.